Hi guys, it's Lucy. So today I wanted to talk about three books that I finished recently, and I'm so excited. This first one is called Shantaram, and this is a book that I've had for at least 10 years now. So I took a peek and it was copyrighted in 2003. So it's written by Gregory David Roberts. It's this dude here at the back. He is actually a convicted criminal. So he escaped from a maximum security prison in Australia and ended up with, I think, fake paperwork in India, in Bombay. And he was just a vagrant basically at that point. And from there, so that's where the novel starts. He arrives in India with nothing, nobody. He doesn't know anything. He has some cash, I believe, and this book is just like him building his life there. But obviously, he's very street smart, so he drifts eventually with the local mafia, and he meets the boss per se, and eventually it's so random. He goes on a jihad with this mafia boss in Afghanistan, but like prior to that, there's all this stuff happening. Like he lived in the slums. He's running these little drug deals for tourists. He's like his friends are getting him into like all kinds of things, and you can see him building like a little crime empire for himself. It's fascinating, and I I think I think of all the novels that I have, this is pretty much like the closest novel to reality, which is just astounding because this is one of the craziest books um, of all the ones I have on my shelf. So I think there's a movie about him now. There was a second book that came out. He actually went back to Australia and served out the rest of his sentence properly, like a good criminal. Um, and he's running supposedly a multimedia company. Is very weird. You would think that he does something to do, like he would do something with religion, maybe. But anyway, like all of this, all of these activities that he's involved in, all of this danger, it's written in such a action-packed but reflective way that it's amazing that it's coming from a criminal. Like it just doesn't make sense that the writer and the protagonist is the same person. So this is one of the best books that I have ever read, in like how captivating it is and how much truth there actually is in life, and life of crime particularly. Anyway, there's just so much that I think an ordinary person would identify with, surprisingly. Anybody who has a head or an eye out for like the real world. I don't know about young people today, but or maybe am I do I count as a young person? Anyway, so this is a book that I read for about 100 or so pages, and I recognized how much of a gem it is, and I passed it on to my dad, and he actually finished it surprisingly, and it was so good. This is one of the books that I have saved for a long time because I was distracted by other storylines as well. But it is amazing, hands down. Shantaram, if you're interested in Indian culture, modern Indian culture, and also crime in all its little particularities and people, like you this plays out like a movie in your head with very colorful characters and conversations and stories. This is how a life should be lived, although I'm not promoting crime here, but I'm just saying like his approach to life is solid. So I really enjoyed that one. Anyway, he actually mentioned Ned Kelly. Roberts is actually Australian, and in one little tidbit, he mentioned Ned Kelly as like a hero, like everybody's hero. I think his hero too, in some sort of way, and it was amazing because I actually read True History of the Kelly Gang by Peter Carey like 3 years ago, and this is one of the books that I keep like on my shelf as a sort of like a representation of a certain like culture or time. Like it's so good. It's about Ned Kelly, and he is a bush ranger. He is a big bad criminal as well, and it's written in a very interesting tone. Like you can tell, like it's not as um, it's not as fluent or fluid as like the way that Roberts narrates. He is so good with with writing. Like it's just amazing that he's a criminal too. But Ned Kelly, this book sounds like a criminal wrote it, and it is. It's so Peter Carey is an amazing writer for being able to capture that sort of voice. I think he did base it off of certain notes and books that he was able to reference from Kelly. So this was a very interesting read along the same lines if you're interested in crime, and it won the Booker Prize as well. I'm not sure what year, but that is a bona fide book. Anyway, so the next book I want to talk about is Haruki Murakami. I finally read Norwegian Wood, and oh my gosh, it's so heavy, but I could see why like it pivoted him into a whole nother category, like Murakami, as in, because prior to this, I believe he was quite short story, very dreamlike, a lot of nonsensical type of themes and narratives, and he was sort of defined by the quirkiness of all of it. But Norwegian Wood, I'm not saying it's not quirky, but it is much more of a normal novel in the way that it has characters who are living out lives in normal timelines. There is a normal timeline here. It doesn't jump around. People don't just disappear into like holes in the ground. That, not physical ones at least, but the theme heavily is suicide. And I don't know if he's influenced by just how high the rate is in Japan itself or like East Asia, but I didn't like I feel like this is not a book that I would gift to, say, like a young cousin or like sibling or friend even. You would have to be a very stable person for me to recommend this book to you. So it's about young people in their early 20s, and they're dealing with the aftermath of like a best friend and boyfriend. It's one person, but it's the crisscross of these side characters, and then eventually this you find out that one of the characters, the girlfriend, like she actually was suffering from the suicide of a sibling, like that she saw when she was much younger. So there's a lot of this trauma going on, and it just like gets escalated, and you could see how like all these events just snowball. And she was already scarred from her sibling, and then, you know, as like a young person, she attaches herself to her, you know, neighbor boyfriend, and the boyfriend is similar as her sister, just like sunshine all the way, and then they suicide as well, and then now she's scarred, a perfectly normal girl that would have grown up to be quite productive and normal, like, and you know, the best friend is now like they run into each other, and of course they have shared history, they spend so much time together, they become emotionally involved, and now he is scarred because she has all these mental issues and she can't pull herself out of, and maybe her parents aren't like, you know, the most they aren't the most caring or supportive in that sense, and you can't depend on other people to fix you once things go bad. So she eventually suicides as well, and this is just all like very heavy, but it's very engrossing. It's very well written. There's a lot of he starts delving into these very sexual themes, and it makes sense because of the age range and also like the just human experience. Yeah, so I would say this is the book where Haruki Murakami like really starts to write about the human experience in a much more relatable way, not just pure like psychological. So yeah, this is a pivotal work, I would say. But I'm not sure, I wouldn't call this my favorite just because I don't like the theme, and it's very dark just because of the theme itself, and how the theme has led the story, how it in unfolds. Like it's just I mean, how it plays out is not the best way. There are books where it takes a very dark theme, but the characters somehow handle it in a way that makes the work more optimistic or more bearable or more wise. I don't feel like this is any of that. Like, I don't feel like it added to my life in any sort of positive way. I only think that it's important from the sense that I've read a lot of other Murakami works, and I feel like he is able to tell a story in the way that you start being very involved with the characters. And I think that is such an amazing trait for this author, and that's why he's so popular and people are so opinionated about his works. So this is a reprint, and he has a foreword that he wrote about, like, about when, like, he was writing this book, and the comments that it received when it launched. Like, it was either hated or love it, and he gained a whole new following. So the original fans, I think a lot of them really hated the work. So this is this is a divisive, pivotal work for this author, and that's all there is. It's enjoyable as a pure story, but it's so heavy to the point that I can't find myself really recommending this or easily speaking about it, say in like a normal friend group setting, because I think it would be upsetting to some people, and especially to people you don't know, what they have gone through. These are very sensitive topics. So that's that one. And then the last one I'll talk about is Fast Like a Girl. So I found this author, Dr. Mindy Pelz, in a podcast. I can link that podcast. I found what she was saying to be very direct and interesting and nuanced enough that it's not like very, how would you describe it, like pedantic. Like, it's not very like directive, as in like you should do this or do that, which I never follow. I hate it when people start talking in tones like that. It's just such a immediately it's just okay, sure, let's move on. So this one, she talks about the different kinds of fasting. So I feel like I learned a little bit about some of the ways that the body reacts at different periods of fasting. And it's interesting to note that the longer fasts, especially fasts that are like 36 hours or 72 hours, they sound so extreme, but the results that were tested, it's based off of people who are just so ill, oftentimes terminally ill, that when they tried this, it actually worked to improve their overall condition. So it's really important to be mindful of the context of a lot of these things. Like, if you're like a super healthy, like 20-year-old, you probably don't need that, and that's what she says. So I liked how she talks about it in a way that is it is something you could follow, but it is very individual. So she leaves a big wide margin for that individuality. So I like that. And I also like how, like, this much of the book is all recipes. So I marked some of my favorite recipes or things I already eat that I really like with like these folded pages. So all of these that I really like and already eat. So I don't know, I just like reading about food in general overall as well. She talks about cycle of the month. So this is specifically for women, how the body is using up energy like differently throughout the cycle, and how to work with the cycle to maximize results, because it's not like we're not really the same as men biologically, where because their hormone, testosterone, it doesn't really fluctuate that much on a monthly basis. Women have 3 hormones working that are really just it cycles, right? It's still predictable, but it's just harder to manage. You can't have the same diet day in day out and food prep the exact same way every single week and expect to lose weight the same way that a man would be able to. So that was very interesting to know, like off the bat. That's why I was so drawn into it, like the nuance of how like a woman's body is a little different. So that was it. I feel like there's a lot of information there based on the various types of long form interviews that she has done. So I'll link the one that I was listening to. And yeah, so this is a pretty good like discovery. I wouldn't say that I'm going to schedule my life and eat like, around this if I ever wanted to lose weight or fast, but it's just something interesting that's out there that's good to know. Kind of vegans, like what do they do, what do they eat, or like keto, like learning about all these things doesn't mean you have to follow any of it, but it's just slightly injecting something different into your life that might be useful in at some point or another, and or even just interesting to try. So I hope you guys are reading things that are optimistic and new to you and keeping you interested. Let me know what you've been reading. I'm very curious. Have a good day, guys.